Thank you for joining us for the 2020 Hermana Virtual Conference. My name is Celina Caprio, and I am the chair of the MANA National Board of Directors. I'm here with my colleagues and also fellow Hermanas, Jennifer Manzanares, who is our board vice chair, and Michelle Cuevas-Stubblefield, who is our board secretary. This will be the first episode of Get to Know Your MANA National Board. In the coming days, you will meet more members of the board of the oldest and largest Hispanic women's membership organization in the country, MANA. We're excited to be here, and we're excited to share our backgrounds and our stories, and hope to uplift you with the stories that we have to share, because at the end of the day, we all share a common background. We also hope that you discover the trajectory of your own leadership journey, and that you consider working towards serving our organization at a national level as well. This session will begin with a couple of questions amongst ourselves. And the first question that I'm going to pose to Jennifer and Michelle, and I will answer myself afterwards, is, we all have our story, and we all have an origin story. So Jennifer and Michelle, please tell us how you first came to join MANA, and what steps you took toward advancing in your leadership roles with the organization.
Buenos dias, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you all the way from New Mexico. So MANA is such a dear organization to my heart. Started as a friend in the 90s, recruited by one of the original MANA del Norte members, and from there kept growing. I'll never forget, there was Sandra Rodriguez that was part of our organization. There was Carmen Rodriguez. We just had a lot of powerful women and determined women. So I saw their leadership. I admired it. I loved the organization. Then I joined our local board and served in different roles. I served as vice president. I think I served at one point as secretary treasurer, public relations. And then I got more involved with the Hermanitas. And what an experience that was to go to a leadership institute. And around that same time in 2007, was honored to be a part of the Ford Fellowship of Avanzamos Leadership. That's where I met our president, Celina, and other amazing women from across the country. And Amy was a part of that inaugural year, I think, that she got started. So just a lot of fun, to the point of wanting to serve at the national level. And it's been fun. It's been memorable, and a very big honor to be a part of the organization, and hope to be a lifetime member.
It's a long story, but I'll keep it short.
Many years.
Many years. Actually, my sister passed away in 1996. At that time, she was on the cusp of just greatness as a young Latina getting ready to start her career and had all these goals. And I think at that time I wanted to honor her. So in 2003, my mother and I got together and had a conversation about starting a Latina organization. We found MANA. With that, got a bunch of amazing Latinas within the community, and we got the organization up and going. Within that time, we've had the opportunity to provide scholarships of over 65,000 to young Latinas to reach higher education. So obviously, I've been president, I've served on the board, member, volunteer, and it naturally progressed into serving nationally. I love this organization and all that it has done for my family, for fellow Latinas, and I continue to be very proud to be involved.
My journey started also, I think, almost 15 years ago. And my introduction to MANA was through the Hermanitas program. And as a young Latina at that time, I thought it was beneficial for me to share my journey on, how I went to school and got a job, because I was still on that journey. Through MANA, I was able to meet amazing women. I'm part of the San Diego chapter. And when I joined, we had Marisa Bejarano as leading the Hermanitas program, and we also had great women on the board of MANA de San Diego chapter, Lisa Rhodes, Elsa Sevilla, Nelly Andrade, Adela Garcia, were all very driven. At that time, Lydia Martinez served on the national board, And I got to go to Washington, D.C. to meet all my fellow hermanas. And I think for me, when I went to D.C. and I saw that we were doing the same thing across the board in our nation, it was just this wow, as in you connect with all of your hermanas from New Mexico, Texas, Kansas, Detroit, Pennsylvania, New York, Chicago, and you realize that the greater good, everybody's in it for the greater good. So for me, that was, part of the journey and what has kept me being part of MANA, the amazing women that make MANA as a whole.
So ladies, as we visit, we talk about leadership, and leadership is about vision, right? And when you take on a leadership role with an organization, you envision a more perfect version of what it could be in the future. What are your hopes and dreams for MANA?
Ooh, I have many. I hope that I have achieved some in my visions through leadership. As I mentioned earlier, my journey started as a mentor and a mentor to young women. And that taught me also a personal lesson that I could not only be a mentor to a younger woman, but I could also be a mentor to my peers, to a fellow woman. So for me, leadership is looking inward, as in what skill set do you have that could benefit the organization as a whole. For me, has been communication and organization and structure and process. I think I did a good job as a director of the Hermanitas program for many years in creating that structure and that process. So whomever came afterwards didn't have to reinvent the wheel, right? That we had proven steps for success. And the same on the national level, that for me, it is how do we communicate? How do we use our communication to be there for our fellow hermanas, to be there for our fellow chapters, and to work towards similar goals, and in some instances, the same goals, because even though we're across the nation, we all have similar issues in our hometowns and where we're from, because we are all Latinas women, so we have that common denominator. So my vision has always been create bridges, and you create bridges by opening up the lines of communication and creating process, something that all of us can adapt and follow, and in the same way help each other instead of leaving each of us to reinvent the wheel that doesn't need to, because we've been standing on amazing women's shoulders, lifting each other. So I'm hoping that we're laying down bricks for bridges as we move forward.
I think for me, it's helping women build their capacity to lead. Any of us can lead anytime, anywhere. We simply need to feel confident in that. Again, have those abilities. And MANA, I think, can give you that experience, maybe, and give you the capacity that you need to boldly step into a boardroom, speak about advocacy on really important issues. That's the vision I have for MANA. And they do those things already, but even for us to increase that in numbers and in influence and in stature and all those things that we need so that our voice is strong. People listen to MANA, but we want them to champion our cause as well. So yeah. I think when we gather together, we see that strength and more opportunities for us to envision that and be that. I think, especially with all that is going on in the world right now, we have a voice and we're worthy of speaking loud.
My granddaughter, her mama was an hermanita as well, and just yesterday we had a conversation about her confidence, and as a single mom, how she feels that she's at a place where she's comfortable in her skin. And she says, Mom, and that's that I'm young. And so we're talking about her experiences, and we talked about MANA and how the Leadership Institute that she was able to participate in grew her to who she is today. So my vision and my hope would be that we see the Hermanitas program develop itself. And I know we live in a very different time where it may be very virtual going forward, but that we continue that marcha, as they would say, right? Because We have little Abigails who are already at a disadvantage because they have a single mama, for example, and we want to encourage them. And I'm also a part of a great organization in New Mexico. It's Anna Age 8, and it's all about adverse childhood experiences. And when we want to take a person from surviving, to thriving, mentorship is huge. We need to have more of this, right? To grow. And my daughter's a perfect example. So I'm grateful that as a single mom, she's a single mom. The hope is that we can grow that to where we have national leaders like Abigail 25, 30 years down the road.
We are in uncertain times. So many women, particularly Latinas, as our community is facing such hard challenges during this global pandemic with regards to work, family, school, health, among other worries. What message can you give our hermanas out there to give them hope that they are not alone and to reassure them that they are doing a great job?
That's a really good question. I think the fact that we're all seriously in this together, we're all of us in our homes, and this virtual conference is a key that regardless of where we are in the nation, we are under the same circumstances. So what do we do with those circumstances is the important part. For myself, I've been working from home since the first week of March. So I've been going on 5 months from working from home. And at first I thought this is circumstantial and it will pass. Then as you see it progressing and progressing, you become real and you try to make the best of the situation. For myself was to be present more because I saw it as a gift of time that I would be able now to have longer conversations with my family, my loved ones, my friends, my peers in my community, because it has forced a slowdown, right? Unfortunately, that slowdown has had other repercussions to other members of our community financially. So for me, the question is, what can I do from home, right? And sometimes your voice is the one that can help the most, right? Uplifting somebody that's going through a hard time, or donating things that you realize that you have in excess in your own home. Just little things like that, food to food banks, clothing for those seeking shelter. It's just trying to get creative with how we can still be involved in our communities and help one another. And at the same time, that help might just come from a voice of reassurance from one another, right? Like checking in on somebody, hey, how you doing? Because let's be honest, a lot of us have a lot of pride, and as Latina women, we're going to be the last ones that are going to ask for help. So sometimes we need to see and be that voice to pick up the phone and call your friend, hey, how are you doing? How's job? Are you still working? How's the kids? Like, do you need any help, or just to cry on the phone? And as women and as Latinas, we need to know that our voices can also offer support and comfort to our hermanas and hermanos in our community, right? It doesn't just mean opening up your checkbook and, sometimes that reassurance, or, you know what, you don't have a job, but I have somebody that's hiring, right? It's also establishing those connections and getting creative on how, from our homes, we continue to influence our community in a positive way by lifting each other up.
Thank you for sharing, Celina, everything you said. I can really appreciate the fact that we've had to slow down. And I think, like you said, that quality time that we have now that we didn't have, that commuting time that we have to make that personal connection with someone. And like you have a very dear place in my heart for anyone who struggles with addiction issues or homelessness. And I reach into my community, now it's virtual, and volunteer for a organization, Pathway Shelter, helping those less fortunate. And so it comes from a very deep place in my heart, how we take care of ourselves as Latina women, the self-care that we give. There's definitely a feeling of pandemic fatigue in the air. I was talking to a sister of mine yesterday, and she said, Jen, we don't seem to have a calendar that we can look at and plan anything. And when you live with so much stress in your life, sometimes it's nice to think, hey, I'm going to go to San Diego and visit my hermana Celina, right? And we just don't have that to look forward to right now. So I think being very mindful and knowing that sometimes the stress is going to be there just because our lives have been very different for the last 5 months, like you said. And although we can treasure the quality time that we've had, I think we're missing other things. The other day I took a walk through the plaza in Santa Fe, and 30 years ago I was honored to be a reina de la fiesta. So to me that's a big deal, right? We celebrate fiestas every year, and I want my granddaughter to dance folklorico, and we're not going to have that this year. So I took a moment to process that, and I thought, you know what, I feel like I'm grieving that. I'm grieving all the summer activities that we didn't have. And so being very, very, again, mindful is the word I use, because it's something that our traditions, our cultures, we're not experiencing those right now, and it's very different. So what can you do? Right? I say, what can you do? So in New Mexico, we find that we go camping a lot, and that's a lot of time in nature. That's a lot of time that we can appreciate things that maybe we were running too fast from one place to the other to really enjoy. So I always encourage in these pandemic times that we think about the slowing down, like you said, and appreciating a cup of coffee, be it virtual, right, with someone that we haven't seen in a while, and catching up, and thinking about those that are less fortunate, definitely, and reaching out with that one note of encouragement. And as strong Latina women, I know that sometimes things fall on our laps to take care of, but thankfully we are wise, and we have a lot of love in our heart to extend to others. So a lot of self-care, a lot of self-love and self-forgiveness in these times.
I think you've all said it wonderfully. Time is so important, and rediscovering that time with family, rediscovering that time with my daughter and my son, just to be able to visit with them, slowing down and breathing, just simply breathing in the moment, because normally we have so much to do, and just having to stop and not being able to do all those things that we normally do, in some small way has been a gift in the middle of a crisis. The other part is that I think all these women to know is I've had the opportunity to chair the community recovery for our community here in Topeka, Kansas. And I don't want us to lose our voice. There is so much going on. I think to give hope is to simply find your voice, tell people what you need, tell people about the issues. We know them. We can educate others. We have to demand that we can do better, and the community can do better for our community. It's been an amazing time, but I've also seen the very best in people as they see an issue, come together, and then just figure out how to make it work. I think the other thing that's really important is just be adaptable. I think one thing we all rely on in most days is most people have a plan. You know what to expect. You know what's probably going to happen. And this has been a time where those plans no longer function. They don't work anymore. What we may have said yesterday may change today, and we have to learn to be adaptable. I think that's what gives me hope, is when we see people being able to bounce back and work through those problems. So I would say be a mama bear, and make sure that you're protecting your family by telling them what they need, and being a part of the community and saying, here's how we recover.
Very well said, Michelle. And you said something that's very key. We need to adapt. I think it is in our DNA as Latinos to adapt and to move forward through the path, right? And we need to remind ourselves that we are still a community, and get creative on how do we adapt and how do we continue to contribute, even if it's just our voice, to say, hello, we're still here, and we still have these issues that need to be addressed and resolved, right? So yes, to our fellow hermanas that are listening to us across the nation, is, be present and see how your voice can still sound as loud as it can in your community. And it can also just be with words of encouragement and love to your loved ones or to family members, friends across the nation.
Can I say one thing?
What? You may say many things.
Complete your census. So tell everybody to complete their census, because when it comes to putting money into our community and into our culture, we have to complete the census. It
Yes.
is easy, safe, takes 5 minutes, but it will provide the resources that each community needs.
Many thanks to my fellow hermanas and fellow national board members, Jennifer Manzanares and Michelle Cuevas-Stubblefield, for this great chat. Please join us for the other 2020 Hermana virtual conference activities. Please visit us at hermana.org, where you can also donate, on Facebook and Twitter at Mana National for more information. Again, thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoy this virtual conference and take a little grain of information and go back to your community and do great things. Saludos y un fuerte abrazo a todas mis hermanas. Bye.
Que viva la hermana.
Sí.